Hello everyone. In today's session, we'll be learning about the introduction to gravity and how the planets revolving in their orbits as sun at one of their foci. So we will be learning about the gravitational pull and how the orbits of the planets are affected due to the gravitational forces. Myself is Vidyarani, working as Assistant Professor of Physics at MVS Government Degree College, Autonomous, Mehboob Nagar. So if you have observed here, there is a small animation here. See how the planets are revolving. So all the 9 planets are there here. So Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune. As Pluto is eliminated, is not considered as a planet nowadays. So this is the latest 8 planets we have in our solar system. So now let us go into the details. So in order to understand the gravity, first we should know about the contribution made by Isaac Newton. So Isaac Newton is a great scientist who has defined gravity and who has discovered that there is a gravitational force that is acting. So hence it's very necessary to know about Isaac Newton when we learn about the gravity. He was born in England in 1642. He invented calculus in early 20s. Finally, he published a work in gravity in 1687 called as the Principia. In this, he noted the details about the gravity. So he has studied and published his work relating to gravity. First, we would learn to know about Newton's laws of motion, which are very helpful in learning about the gravity. So, an object in motion will remain in motion unless there is a force acting on it. This is called as law of inertia. So, this is also called as Newton's first law of motion. That is, an object in motion will remain in motion unless there is a force acting on it. And the second law is called as law of acceleration or law of force. The size of an object's acceleration is proportional to the force applied and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. So this is the acceleration and the relation between acceleration and the force. So this law is called as Newton's second law also. And the third law is, we all know, for every force applied to an object there is an equal and opposite force in response. That is, for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction, which is also called as law of action and reaction, also called as Newton's third law of motion. We have learned about all these 3 laws of motion in the first unit called mechanics, wherein we have learned about the motion of particles. In that we came to know about all these laws in detail. So I will not go into the details of these laws, but just I am reminding you that how these Newton's laws are useful in order to understand the motion of the orbits or the motion of the planets in their orbits. So as I have told that Newton's first law of motion or law of inertia. So objects in motion or at rest remain in motion or at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. So I am just reminding the whatever we have learned in the motion of particles. That is, example, riding in a car. That is, braking a car, you continue forward. Accelerating a car, you remain at rest. So when you are riding a car, so when you put on brake, so you remain at rest. When you accelerate a car, you continue to move forward. And the second law states that the size of an object's acceleration is proportional to the force applied and inversely proportional to the mass of the object. That is, force is equal to mass times of acceleration. That means to accelerate a more massive object requires more force. So F is equal to ma means if there is more massive object, then we require more massive force. So an object accelerates in the same direction as the force. In which direction the force is applied, in the same direction the object moves or the object accelerates. This is about Newton's second law. So I am just putting a question to think Newton's second law of motion. So based on Newton's second law of motion, which would you rather push? So you would rather push this heavy, huge, robust vehicle or a small car. So in both of these, which is very easy to push? So think a while and answer my question. One more question. Who would you rather do the pushing? Whether you push a small mouse, whether it is easy to push or whether it is easy to push a big elephant, a huge elephant. Think for a while and you'll get the answer. So Newton's third law of motion. As we all know, for every force applied to an object, there is an equal and opposite force in response. That means, if you see the example, here I have shown you an example, apple on a table. So here if you observe, there are two forces acting simultaneously at the same time. That is, the apple is exerting force on the table. In the same way, table is also exerting the same amount of force in the upward direction on the apple. That means both the forces are balanced and equal. Now we will move on to law of universal gravitation, which is very important, which is this law of universal gravitation is given by Newton. So according to him, gravity is a fundamental force. First, remember that gravity is a fundamental force. Second point is that gravity is an attractive force. Attractive means it pulls objects together. So gravity is an attractive force. And the third point is the gravity is an universal force. This gravity is also a universal force. That means this gravity is applied on any material everywhere in the universe. This affects material everywhere in the universe. That means it works in larger scales. And also gravity is a mutual force. That means operates between pairs of objects. That means it's not like that one object is applying or exerting gravity on the other object and the other object is just being pulled by the first object. It's not like that. The gravity is a mutual force. That means both objects operate on each other by exerting gravity on one another. So where this is applied, where the force of gravity is applied, the force of gravity keeps planets in their orbits, causes objects to fall or holds objects to the surface of the earth. For example, if any object is thrown upward, let us say an apple or in a stone, then what happens? The object, after a few seconds, the objects will reach to the ground. Because this is happening because of the force of gravity of the earth, that is gravitational pull of the earth. This is the example for the gravity which is causing the objects to fall. And if you observe holding objects to the surface of the earth, so even this gravity helps us to hold objects to the surface of the earth. Let us suppose a rocket is moving or a satellite is moving around the surface of the earth. Because of the gravitational pull only, it can be able to move around the surface of the earth in its orbit. So this is an example for the objects that are held to the surface of the earth. And also one more important activity of the gravity is that it keeps planets moving in their orbits. Because of the gravity pull of the sun, the planets are not bombarding with one another, but instead of that they are maintaining their own orbits so that they are moving around the sun in their orbits only. They are either not falling onto the sun, they are not either falling onto one another, or they are not thrown away into the space, but they are maintaining their orbits because of the gravity that is attracted by the sun. Now we will see the details of force of gravity. This force of gravity depends on the masses of the objects. So how the force of gravity depends? So this force of gravity depends on the masses of the objects. That means more massive, stronger gravitational force. That means if the two objects are more massive, then there will be stronger gravitational force between those two objects. Let us take any two objects of smaller masses and bigger masses. So those two masses which are heavier, those two masses will have stronger gravitational forces than the gravitational forces that exist between the smaller or lighter masses. So it also depends on the distance between the objects. So this force of gravity also depends on the distance between the objects. That means if more distance is there between the two objects, then weaker will be the gravitational force. Let us place two masses with a less distance, let us say, and the other two same masses with a with a longer distance. If you observe, the same two masses which are maintaining a low distance between them will have high gravitational force, but at the same time the same two masses which are maintaining a longer distance will have weaker gravitational forces. That means the force of gravity is inversely proportional to distance, whereas it is directly proportional to the masses. That means if masses increases, force of gravity increases. Or else if you say force is inversely proportional to distance, means if distance increases, the force of gravity decreases. If distance decreases, force of gravity increases. So that means vice versa. And also these are the two these are the two parameters on which gravity depends. One is the gravity is directly proportional to the masses, while the other one is gravity is inversely proportional to distance. So in other words, we can write in the mathematical form, that is F is equal to, that is force of gravity is equal to G into m1 m2 by d square. How it has come? So I will show you. So as I have already told that F is directly proportional to masses m1 and m2, and F is inversely proportional to square of the distance. Hence if we combine these two equations, we get F is directly proportional to m1 m2 by d square. So if we take the constant, so if we want to equal it, so we'll get a constant, that is F is equal to G into m1 m2 by d square, where G is called as force constant or gravitational constant, m1 m2 are the masses of the objects, and d square is the distance between the two objects, square of the distance between the two objects. So this means force is equal to G into m1 m2 by d square. This G is called as universal gravitational constant or gravitational constant. So this is called as universal gravitation constant. So now we will see the mutual attraction. So dropping an apple, we will see taking an example of the dropping an apple, we will see the mutual attraction between two objects. Let us say gravitational force between the earth and the apple, that is gravitational force between the earth, let us say take the earth as E and apple as A. That means force exerted by earth on apple A is equal to force exerted by apple on E. I think you might remember on which law this is based. This is based on Newton's third law of motion. That is, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So hence the forces are balanced. So using Newton's third law, we are going to explain about the gravitational forces between two objects. So let us say here force exerted by earth on apple is equal to force exerted by apple on earth. That means this is equal to, according to the formula given by Newton, force of gravity, this is equal to G into mass of earth by mass of apple by distance between the apple and the earth, that is R E square. Here R gives the distance. So acceleration of the apple, let us see. So acceleration of the apple, a into a, because the apple is falling down, so it has movement, so it has acceleration. Acceleration of apple is given by gme by re square. So we know that F is equal to ma, or else if you want to find out the A value, so we have to divide the force by mass. So here force by mass is nothing but here we have got the force GME MA by RE square, and the mass of the apple is MA. So this is divided by mass of apple, that is MA. So you will get the acceleration of the apple AA, that is GME by RE square, which is equal to, this value is equal to 9.8 meters per second square, wherein this 9.8 meters per second square is called as acceleration due to gravity or gravitational acceleration, which is denoted by small letter g. That means acceleration of the earth, if we want to find out, again the same formula. So we are finding the acceleration of the earth, hence again the force exerted by earth on apple by mass of the earth gives the acceleration of the earth. So hence mass of the earth is me, and me, if we divide this force by me, we will get g into ma by r square. So acceleration of the earth is g ma by r square, which is equal to 10 power minus 25 meters per second square. So when it has been calculated that mass acceleration of the earth is at the rate of 10 power minus 25 meters per second. So that means earth is much more massive than apple. That means we are exerting more as the acceleration is more, that shows that the mass of the earth is more. That means acceleration is directly proportional to A. So if you observe these two accelerations, acceleration of the apple is very less when compared to acceleration of the earth. That means force exerted on the earth for its movement is more. That means because earth is much more massive than apple. That means a force of the same size will accelerate the earth much less than for the apple. So a force of the same size will accelerate the earth, because the earth is a much more massive one. So the same force on earth will be accelerate much less when compared to apple. That means we see the apple fall. We don't see the earth move up to the apple. Because of the gravitational force, the earth should move towards the apple, and the apple is also exerting the same amount of gravitation on the earth. The apple should be come near to the earth, as well as the earth should be moving towards the apple. But why it is not happening is that because the earth is more massive, the same amount of force exerted by the apple on the earth or the apple will not accelerate the earth much, because the apple for the apple it is, that force is enough so that it can move towards the earth, but which is earth is massive, hence the earth cannot be seen as that the earth is not moving towards the apple. Now one more thing, how, let us see how the gravitation depends on mass. As we have already discussed here, so more F is directly proportional to E masses. That is, if mass is more, so force should be more. So based on that, we will see how the gravitation depends on mass. More mass means more gravitational force. So weight is actually a measure of the Earth's gravitational force on our body mass. How weight is calculated? Because it is calculated in the way that the gravitational force on our body mass, that is weight, is equal to force of gravity on our mass. So that is equal to mass of us into g of earth, gravitational pull of earth, where g is equal to 9.8 meters per second, and mass of the body. So mass always remains the same if you observe. So d may change depending upon the planet or depending on the object on which we are standing, but mass of the particular body or person or the remains the same. So mass always remains the same. Only change will be on the gravitational acceleration due to gravity of that particular planet. So Newton on Earth is 150 lbs. So if you observe, let us take the mass weight of the Newton on Earth. It is 150 lbs. If the Earth were half its mass, then it will be 75 lbs. If the Earth is twice its mass, that is 300 lbs. If Earth was 50 times its mass, that is 7500 lbs. That means here if you observe, the mass is not changing, only the gravitational pull is changing. That means dependence of force on mass is linear. If force increases, mass increases. If mass decreases, force decreases. So this is how the gravitation depends on mass. That is, the gravitational force and mass are linear to one another. Let us see how the gravitation depends on distance. You might have remembered that I have told that gravitational force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. That means if distance decreases, gravitational force increases, or vice versa. So that means objects, if they are closer together, then force will be stronger. If objects are very far away from one another, then force is weaker. So F is proportional to 1 by distance square, that is F is inversely proportional to d square. Let us say Newton on Earth is 150 lbs. In the space station 136 lbs, that is 200 miles above Earth. If we take much more distance, at the moon's distance, he weighs only 0.04 lbs, that is 0.04 pounds. Because the distance is more, the gravitational pull by the Earth will be less. Hence, he weighs only 0.04 lbs. That means force of gravity decreases as distance between objects increases according to the inverse square law. This law which I have told earlier, that is F is equal to g m1 m2 by d square, is called as inverse square law because it is in the distance, the force is inversely proportional to the square of the distance. Hence it is also called as inverse square law. So if distance increases between the two objects, then force of gravity keeps on decreasing. See here. If d is equal to 1, there is 1 unit. If d is equal to distance is equal to 2 units, then the force of gravity will be less. If distance is equal to more, then again the force of gravity will be goes on decreasing. Let us say here how the changes in mass affect the gravitational force. So the same formula, inverse square law, will take F is equal to gm1 m2 by d square, which is the basic law. Now we will see there are two masses. Let us suppose one body's mass is m1, the other one is m2, and let there be a distance of d between these two. According to the inverse square law given by Newton, that is equal to F is equal to gm1 into m2 by d square. This is as simple as that. Now let us increase the first mass twice, 2 times. That is, let the first mass be 2m1 and the second mass is kept at the same mass, that is m2, and let the distance be same, that is d. Now according to this formula, let us substitute in place of m1, now it is substituted by 2m1, that is F is equal to g into 2m1 into m2 by d square. That we got 2 into gm1 m2 by d square. As mass and force are directly proportional, that is F is directly proportional to m mass. So if one of the masses has increased, then force also increased. So there is a linear relation between mass and force. So here mass has increased twice. Hence the force also increased twice. So force, now we got it as 2 into gm1 m2 by d square. Now let us say we will increase both the masses. That is first mass to 2 times, second mass also twice the earlier case. So now m1 has increased to 2 times, m2 is also increased to 2 times. Let the distance be constant, that is d only. Again, if we substitute in place of m1, we have to substitute 2m1. In place of m2, we have to substitute 2m2. So that what happens? So F is directly proportional to m. So F is equal to 2 times of the first mass into 2 times of the second mass. Hence now F is equal to 4 times of the masses. That is, force has increased 4 times to the initial case, because force is directly, force and mass are linearly related. So if one of the mass increases, then force also increases. If mass decreases, force also decreases. So that means we have increased the masses of both the bodies, then eventually the force also increased. So this is how we calculate changes in mass causes how the changes in force. Now let us see the changes in distance. If the distance changes between these two masses, how it affects the force. So again we have taken one more example. So if you observe here, there is one mass m1 body, the second body is of having mass m2, and let they are separated by a distance of d according to the inverse square law. F is equal to g m1 m2 by d square. Now in the second case, this is the basic case. In the second case, we have increased the distance to twice, 2 times the earlier distance. That is now same masses, we are not changing any masses. So m1 and the second body at m2, but they are separated now at a distance of 2d. So F is equal to g m1 m2 by distance has become 2d, so 2d whole square. This gives the 1 by 4 g m1 m2 by d square. That means now the force has been reduced to 1 by 4th of the earlier case, first case. So and the second one and the third example, let us reduce the distance by d by 2. That is m1 same masses, but distance is reduced to half of the initial case. So now if you observe, F is equal to g m1 m2 by d by 2 whole square, which gives the 4 into g m1 m2 by d square. As I have told that the relation between force and distance is inverse. That means if distance increases, force decreases. And if distance decreases, force increases. That means if distance decreases, force increases. Or else, if in the second instance, if distance increases, force decreases. And this is the relation between the force and the distance. That too, as there is a square for the distance, that means distance, if the distance increases, force is decreased by square of the distance. Or else if distance decreases, force is increased by square of the distance. Hence if you observe here, though we are taking d by 2, as the distance is decreased, now the force has been increased to 4 times of the initial case. Whereas if you observe here, we have increased the distance to twice the distance. Hence, as the distance is increased, the force of this instance should be less than this force. Hence, our force has been decreased to 1 by 4th times of the initial one. So, when distance is increased, force is decreased. When distance is decreased, force is increased. So, this is how changes in distance can cause changes in force. Now let us see how the gravity affects on other planets. We know that weight is equal to mass times of acceleration due to gravity. Or else this small g can be approached by mass into g is universal gravitation constant, m is mass of planet, and small r square is equal to distance of the planets. So Gm planet by r square planet. So now Newton on Earth, if we say he is weighing 150 lbs, on Mercury he weighs only 56.67 lbs because Mercury's mass is 0.06, okay, 0.06 times of mass of Earth, and Mercury radius is zero point 0.4 radius of Earth. Then Mercury's gravitational acceleration will be g of Mercury will be 3.68 meters per second, whereas on Earth whereas on Earth GE is equal to 9.8. If you observe meters per second square. So G of Earth is more than G of M, that is Mercury. Hence, the weight of the person or any body weighs more on Earth when compared to Mercury, because we know that weight is equal to m into g. If more g, mass is same, mass of the body or mass of any person is same at all places at all times, but g is changing. So g on Earth is 9.8, that means which is more than the g of Mercury. Hence weight on Earth will be more than when weight on Mercury. Again we will move on to Jupiter. If you see, Jupiter's mass is 318 mass times of Earth. Jupiter's radius is 11 times of radius of Earth. Then Jupiter's gravitational acceleration, that is g of j, is 25.8 meters per second. So that means when we compare with Earth, Earth is only 9.8. So we have told that if g is more, then weight will be more. So here if you compare Earth's and Jupiter's, so Jupiter's gravitational acceleration due to gravity is highly comparably more. So hence weight of the person, the same person, will be more on Jupiter when compared from Earth. So he weighs 354.6 pounds on Jupiter because its acceleration due to gravity is more when compared to Earth. Now we will move on to the Moon. If you move on to the Moon, Moon's mass is 0.01 times of mass of Earth, and Moon's radius is 0.27 times of the radius of the Earth. Then Moon's gravitational acceleration is g of m is 1.34 meters per second square, which is comparatively much more less than gravitational force on Earth, that is 9.8 meters per second square. So he weighs less when compared on Earth. So on Earth, the same person weighs 150 pounds, whereas on the Moon, he weighs only 24.9 pounds. Hence, when we land on Mercury, our weight will reduce. And comparatively, when we move on to Jupiter, we feel more weight. Whereas when we land on Moon, we feel much lighter because of the acceleration due to gravity. Now let us move on to what is an orbit. Let us know what is an orbit. Orbit is the curved path of a celestial object or spacecraft around a star, planet or moon, especially a periodic elliptical revolution. A periodic elliptical revolution is that periodic means after some time, after a time interval, again the object should come to the initial place. So that means that is called periodic. That means the same revolution should be repeatedly moving, or the object should be repeatedly moving. So the curved path of a celestial object or spacecraft around a star or a planet or a moon, especially a periodic elliptical revolution. So this is called as orbit. So here I have shown with an example. Let us say this is one body, celestial body. Let us say one more celestial body which is moving periodically. That means it is repeating its revolution around that planet or around that body in a curved path or in an elliptical motion. So consequence of gravity effect on orbits. What is the consequence of gravity on orbits? So the force of gravity keeps objects in orbit. This force of gravity helps the objects to move in their orbits. If let us suppose there is no gravity, that is without gravity, moon would move in straight line at constant speed. For example, I will show you. Let us suppose this is the earth, okay, and this is the orbit of the moon. So let us think that the moon is moving in the circular motion around the earth. It is revolving around the earth. Let us suppose if there is no gravity pull of the earth on the moon, why would the moon move in this circular path only? It would have moved away here in this way, or it would have moved in this way, or it could have moved in this way, in this direction, or it could have moved in this direction. That means the moon could have been a chance of moving at any direction, in any place, if there is no gravity pull of the earth on the moon. So that means without gravity, the moon would have moved in straight line at a constant speed. Let us say at 1000 meters per second. It could have moved at with any speed in any direction. But instead of that, the moon is moving in a circular or elliptical orbit around the earth because of the gravity pull of the earth on the moon. That means gravity plays an important role for any object to move around it in a orbit. So that means according to Newton's first law, it would have moved away from the earth in any direction. But gravity of the earth is pulling moon into a curved path. That's why this moon revolves in a curved path only. This gravity causes moon to orbit constantly falling to earth. That means it has been pulled by the gravity of the earth. Hence it is attracted by the earth. Hence the moon is orbiting around the earth instead of falling. So I have shown this in a figure. So if there is gravity, this will be moving in this direction only, circular. If let us suppose there is no gravity, that means this moon or any planet will have moved in this direction or in this direction. In any direction it can move. It may not come or it may not move to attracted towards the earth. So in defining these planetary motion, so these Kepler's laws of planetary motion helps us to understand the planetary motion in a better way. As I've already discussed about the Kepler's laws, I am just reminding these Kepler's laws. So according to Kepler's laws, the first law is planets orbit on ellipses with the sun at one of its foci, as we all know this. Planets sweep out equal areas in equal time intervals. This also we have come to know while learning about Kepler's laws. The third law is the orbital period squared is proportional to the size of the semi-major axis cube. That is, t square is directly proportional to a cube. Newton generalized these laws using his law of universal gravitation to apply to any two objects. These Kepler's laws are used by Newton using universal gravitation law, and he applied these laws with any two objects. So there is a relation between Kepler's laws of planetary motion and Newton's laws of universal gravitation. If you understand the motion of the orbits or the reorbiting of any object to orbiting of any object towards any object, according to our understanding, Kepler has discussed about the what is happening with the planetary motion. That is, what is happening regarding the planetary motion. The same thing is explained by Newton in the other way, why the planetary motion is happening. So Newton explained the whys of the planetary motion, whereas the Kepler explained about the whats of the planetary motion. What is planetary motion is explained by Kepler, or what is an orbit is explained by Kepler, whereas using these Kepler's laws in 1687, this man Newton explained why the planetary motion is happening, or why the planets are moving in orbits only. So first law of orbital motion, that is Kepler's first law. So planets orbit on ellipses with the sun at one of its foci. A circle is just a special case of an ellipse with no eccentricity. Already we have explained this. So eccentricity means squashed. When E is equal to 0, then it becomes a perfect square. When E is equal to 0.5, it's a little bit elliptical. When E is equal to 0.9, it is more elliptical. And the sun, if it is a circle, the sun remains at the center. But as the eccentricity is increasing from 0 to 0.5, 0.9, slowly it takes the shape of the ellipse. Hence, there won't be any center, but instead of that, there will be foci on either sides of the ellipse, wherein the sun will starts moving towards one of the foci. And when the orbit takes an elliptical shape, then there won't be any radius, but there will be two axes called major axis and minor axis. Major axis is the longest distance from one point to the other and touching the foci, and whereas the minor axis is the smallest distance between both the ends of the ellipse. So, and if you observe, semi major axis is half of the major axis, that is given by A. So this is how we can explain first law of orbital motion. Again, if you observe, there will be two types of orbits. One is closed curves, and such as ellipses and circles. So ellipses and circles, if you see, ellipse is this oval shape, let us say, and the circle is this. So these are both closed curves. So these come under the examples of closed curves. Whereas open curves are such that parabola, hyperbola. So parabola and hyperbola come under open curves. So if you observe here, ellipse, sun is its foci, circle, for circle brown color denoted by brown color, so it's in the center. Whereas again, if take much bigger ellipse, so again the green color one. So if you observe this sun, this body is one of its foci. And if you observe open curves, so there is parabola. So parabola is at the one of its foci. So again the hyperbola, if you observe, so the sun is the body, that's one of its foci. So these parabola and hyperbola come under open curves, whereas circles and ellipse come under closed curves. So speed of the body which is orbiting dictates the type of the orbit. So speed of the body dictates the type of orbit in which the body moves or orbits around the other celestial body. So if the escape speed is minimum speed, so what is escape speed? Let us see. Minimum speed needed to escape the force of gravity of the central body pulling the object into a closed orbit. So escape speed is nothing but minimum speed that is needed by the body to escape from the force of gravity of the central body which is pulling the object into a closed orbit. So that means the trajectory follows an open curve. Open curve means whether it may be a parabola or a hyperbola. If the velocity or the speed is greater than escape speed, That means it does not orbit. So if the velocity is more than the escape speed, then the planet or the body which is orbiting around a celestial body will not take the shape of orbit. So if the velocity of the body is less than the escape speed of the gravitational pull of that particular celestial body, then only that body orbits around the celestial body. Now according to second law of orbital motion, so law of areas, it is also called as law of areas. So move faster when closer to the central object, move slower when farther away from the central object. So if you observe here, so here there is the sun, let us say a planet is revolving around the sun. So here time period is 10 seconds, let us say. Here also the time period is 10 seconds, let us say. So in same interval, time period interval, if you observe, so this area covered by the planet orbiting around the sun is equal to the area covered by the same planet which is at another point but between the same interval. So, and one more thing, planets sweep out equal areas in equal intervals of time. And if you observe here, that means when the planet is near to the central body, say suppose sun, then it moves faster. But whereas when it is farther away from the central body or the sun, let us say, then it moves very slow. So let us see one animation regarding this second law of orbital motion. So now we will see the eccentricity demonstrator. We know that eccentricity E is equal to C by A. C is the distance from the center to the one of the foci, that is C, and A is the semi-major axis. Let us if we are decreasing the radius, so if you observe, when C is equal to 0, that means when there is no distance between the focal point and the center, then what happens, eccentricity becomes 0. When E is equal to 0, that means the center as well as the focus are meeting at the same point. That means that becomes a perfect circle, whether A is the radius now. So if we slowly increase the C, see how the shape is changing. So if you want to observe, Earth has a eccentricity of 0.005. That means if you see here 0.005 means not a perfect almost it is in this shape. That means little bit away from the center we have the focus. So this is how we can show the eccentricity. Next, third law of orbital motion, let us see. In third law of orbital motion, the time taken by a planet to complete its orbit depends on the size of the orbit, that is the distance from the sun. So according to this, Kepler has given the equation for this. The orbital period squared is proportional to the size of the semi-major axis cube. Let us say the time period is P, so square of the time period is P square, and let us say the semi-major axis is A, so the cube of semi-major axis is A cube. So time period square of the time period P square is equal to cube of the semi-major axis, that is A cube. So this time period is in years, whereas this semi-major axis is in units of astronomical units. So this is given by Kepler. So from this Kepler's law, Newton generalized the relation beyond the sun and earth. He applied this formula not only between the sun and earth, but between different objects. That is, there is also a dependency on the masses of the objects. Kepler's form was only an approximation when one object was much larger than the other. That is, planets orbiting the sun. So this Newton has applied the same relationship between other two objects, not only beyond on sun and earth, but different objects. He generalizes the equation. So now I want to show an animation regarding planetary motion. See the, let us, so let us suppose this is the sun in the center. These are the 9 planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. So let us see this. Let us suppose here there is a scale that is showing. So the number of years that is taken by each planet to revolve around the sun in their orbits. So let us suppose now Earth has, if the Earth takes 4 years, then the Mercury takes to make same amount of distance to be traveled in 17 years. So if let us suppose, I'll show you, see how the planets are moving. As Mercury is near to Earth, Sun, so that it is moving very faster. Venus is little bit away from the Sun, so hence it is moving little slower when compared to Mercury. And if you observe Earth, Earth is still more far away from the Sun, hence it is moving little slower than the earlier two planets, that is Mercury and Venus. And if you observe here, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. So Neptune, if you observe, it is moving rather slowly when compared to the Mercury, Venus and Earth. Because as the distance increases, the force of gravity decreases. Hence, it starts moving slowly because the force is directly proportional to acceleration. Acceleration is small. Gravitational force applied on this celestial body is small. Hence, it moves with slower acceleration when compared to these planets which are very near to the sun. And if you also observe, see how this is moving slowly. So the planet which is most near to the sun is moving very fastly because it has high acceleration, because the gravitational force is high on that planet. But whereas which is the farther planet, because the gravitational force is less from of the sun on this planet, hence it is moving with lower acceleration. So this is how we can explain. See, still if you have observed, so Earth has completed 64 years, that means 64 revolutions it has taken, but still Pluto has not completed 1 revolution. So if you observe, so to make a 1 revolution around Earth for a Pluto, so that means it should take how many years? Even though I have increased the speed, so still the Pluto is not unable to complete 1 complete revolution around the sun. By the time Pluto takes a 1 revolution, Mercury has completed already 487, still going. So this is how we can explain the gravitational force effect on the speed, acceleration of the planets or the orbiting of the planets. So most important takeaway points from what we have learned in today's class, that so we have learned about the concepts regarding gravity. That is, gravity is a mutual and attractive force between two objects. Force of gravity is directly proportional to mass, And also force of gravity is inversely proportional to the square of the distance, which is also called as inverse square law. And we also learned that according to Newton, force is equal to mass times of acceleration, and gravitational force is equal to g into m1 m2 by d square. And also few points relating to orbits, that is the speed of the object dictates the shape of its orbit. And also if you observe, orbiting objects speed up close into the central object and slow down at a distance. So when they are near to the central object, then the orbiting objects will have a higher acceleration, and when they are at a more distance, then their acceleration will be slow. These are the points that we have learnt from today's class. Thank you for your patience listening. Signing off for today's class. Thank you.